Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. I'm Edward Hunt, joined by my fellow speedster,
Mike Cunningham.
and we are the Meddling Kids. And today we'll be reviewing The Flash. For those of you joining us for the first time, or if you just want a quick reminder, hey, we're the Meddling Kids, we like to review movies, and eventually we'll take over the world, but for now, it's just reviewing movies. We'll be Disney soon enough. But then, we will never spoil that movie. Yeah, ups and downs. We'll never spoil the movie in the first 5 to 15 minutes. We're going to give you a spoiler-free review first. Then we're going to talk about the background of this movie. How much did it cost? Who are these people playing these characters? And then we'll give you a play-by-play, kind of walking through the movie and our thoughts of it scene by scene, or at least important action to important action. All right. But Mike, you ready to get started?
Yes.
Spoiler-free review, 0 to 5. Go, sir.
3.5.
Nice. Okay.
I was pleasantly surprised. So it was just with what's going on with the DCEU and kind of it's had a few ups and very few ups with your Wonder Woman. Yeah. At best, Aquaman, Shazam was fine. All the first ones are fun. And then obviously the lows with Batman v Superman and Justice League and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, the Snyder Cut wasn't bad.
Yeah, because it was 8 days long. Well, if you give that man 48 hours of film,
I'm just saying.
I had to watch it twice back to back. Still jaded. But I think with everything going on with the DCEU, I was a little bit worried. And then the first trailers came out, and I was like, I don't really care so much about DC. But then as time went on, my excitement grew a little bit. It was it looked like it was going to be what Zack Snyder wanted. That disparity between DC and Marvel Marvel was a lot more lighthearted, a lot more jokes. DC was it didn't need to be dark where it was just people were being murdered on screen, but it was just it was a little more mature, a little more focused, a little more serious. Yeah, for sure. I was I can get down with that because that's what I always. You can't have a character like Batman and be super jokey. It takes away from the lore of that character.
You could in the '60s with Adam West. But other than that, it's pass me my shark repellent spray. I mean, look, those are some classic episodes, but. Yeah.
But yeah, so it was just I got more excited as time went on. And then obviously the whole things with the lead actor, kind of derailed some of the marketing and whether this movie was actually going to come out. Yep. But it was I ignored all that because I was a little bit excited. Flash, he's one of the more popular DC characters, one of my favorites. Favorite is obviously going to be Green Lantern for me at least, but yeah, so I was I was excited, and it was as it got closer, I was more excited. So it was just didn't have really high hopes, but I was it looked like it was going to be good. Yeah. I was I liked the kind of reveal for a Supergirl. I liked the way they were going with her because it was especially with this story, with her experience with with human beings. Yeah, it wasn't going to be all lighthearted and stuff like that. And obviously you have the Batman that they brought in for nostalgia, but I was fine with that because I was one of the better Batman. So, like I said, just super excited about this movie. I went to see it yesterday and was, for the most part, pleasantly surprised. I think I knew that my issues with this Flash was the casting. And not even, and this is way before, Ezra Miller got into, issues. But it was just I thought their rendition of the Flash was just not something that I wanted to see. It was too silly. It was it was just weird. It was he was a weird character, and the Flash was always cool to me.
Yeah, Barry Allen, the character in the comics, has always been a really cool, kind of really awesome character.
So it was just I didn't like how the Flash was being portrayed by this actor. So that was my biggest qualm with it. But outside of the story was great for this movie. The biggest lows for me was early on, Ezra Miller, especially with him being that. I know he has comedic timing. I guess it's early in his career, the Perks of Being a Wallflower and stuff like that. But I think for this, it was a comedian trying to tell a joke and bombing and just kind of doubling down. It was it didn't work the first time. Yeah. So time number 5, and it was so that's what this was. It was just somebody being the comedic relief and failing at it, but not realizing it. So it was just kind of frustrating. And then you have, and this isn't a trailer, so it's not a spoiler, but you have 2 versions of Barry Allen. So that means 2 Ezra Millers. It was yes, that's exactly what I wanted.
Double down on it.
Yeah. So it was just it was kind of frustrating. But I think so that took me out of it. But I think later in the film, in Act 2 and Act 3, when they got more serious with with the severity of what was going on with the situation in the film. I wasn't. I like that version of Barry Allen.
Yeah.
Those versions of Barry Allen, right? When they kind of were more grounded and more mature. So, like I said, my issue was going to be with Esmeralda, and that was like my main issue with the movie itself. And then obviously the CGI was just
CGI was rough.
Oh my god,
CGI was.
And
rough.
I feel like we complain about CGI often. For the last, well, I mean, we went 30 episodes in, so it was like for the last 6 months or something like that. With like it just being for some reason we talked. Well, we talked about it with Shay, but it was just like somehow with all the technological advancements. CGI has kind of regressed
in movies, but like
in film,
you get video games.
Video games,
it's like that's me. I'm the same.
Like I was like, I just killed a man. Like video.
Yeah,
but yeah. So the CGI, and it was like since there were so many scenes with it, it just like really takes you out. It was like super rubbery, and obviously it started out like the first scene, the first action set piece was just heavy CGI, and I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, that was rough. I agree.
It bothered me. Yeah, so the CGI was bad, and then early in the film, Ezra Miller, just like when he's trying to be the funny guy, was a little bit frustrating because it was just like it's not working. Let's move on, please. But yeah, so other than those like two not minor things, but two things, I really enjoyed the movie. The story was great. I liked where they went with the Flashpoint Paradox story.
Yep. Yeah.
I think they missed out on a few things, but they got overall what it was supposed to be about, and they were able to fit it into what this DCEU is versus what it is in the animated DC universe. So yeah, 3.5.
3.5, nice. Yeah, honestly, I'm giving it the same. So I'm giving it 3.5 as well, and I don't want to overly repeat a few things that Mike said, but yeah, the CGI was rough, and I'll like point it out because. Yeah, it was like 2008 Heavy Rain. Like the PS3 had CGI that looked like this, and I'm like, you play games now, and you're like, that looks so much better than what is on the screen right now, and like, so that was perplexing to me. And obviously, I'm not a graphic designer. I don't know how to do that, so I'm not trying to be like boo and like throw stones because I know they do much better than I can do for it. But at the same time, if it's going to take you out of the movie, it's going to take you out of the movie. I didn't really have the complaints about Ezra Miller, besides like he is like an awkward Barry Allen, but I think I actually haven't even watched the show. Is he like that in the show too?
Oh no, he's there's a different character that's Garrett Grant or something in the show. He's only Ezra Miller is just in the DCU.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, cool. So then because my knowledge of like Barry Allen, the Flash from the comics is he's like that very calm, cool, collected, awesome character, which obviously is a superhero, so most superheroes are kind of like that. But to see this different portrayal of like that very awkward kind of stuttering, can't really talk with people, can potentially take you out of it a bit. In a positive way, so not spoiling anything with the trailer, the other Barry Allen at times, who was I think he acted both separate characters, as these are very separate personality characters.
But it was also almost a decade in between their ages, too.
Yeah.
Which is something I didn't realize. I knew it, but it was like I wasn't sure how much older he was.
Yeah.
I know certain characters in the film made comments about Prime Barry. How he looked. And then we knew alternate Barry's age, but not Prime Barry. So I wasn't sure the disparity. But it was like they went back to 2013, so it's at least... 10 years.
I was 5 to 10 years in that range for sure. And in a good way, the other Barry, there were times I wanted to punch that Barry in the face. He was so annoying, but in a good way, because I think he was supposed to be annoying. So I'm going to give it to him.
He did bring it up in that when obviously there's a third act.
Yeah. So I'm
unnecessary squabble, but he says he was just like, sometimes I just get overexcited. And it was like, I think and that's what I said, that's what I kind of warmed up to him in that moment, because it was just like, he is 18, right? It was, I think it was a little frustrating because I didn't need a Flash origin of how he got his powers type of thing. And I think they tried to cover both getting his powers and his backstory in this movie when we know it. Yeah. So it was like kind of unnecessary, but it was like having walked through the Barry's story, it was like, okay, I can get why he is what he is. So I agree with you.
Well, yeah, 100%. Considering like I've read a bunch of the comics, but then other parts I kind of forgot how Flash got his powers. Honestly, like so when they had that, I was like, okay, cool. I was like, oh, gotcha.
Well, that's what I think. The big thing for me, and I think it started with the Flash, because when I started watching the CW's The Flash, I kind of refused to look up anything. And the same thing with movies. That's why I was like, I'm not a comic book guy. Whatever's on the screen, or it was obviously I was watching certain DC animated stuff, but it was like whatever is on the screen is what I know about those backstories. Anything else is just foreign to me, because I don't want to do too much research. I don't want to ruin whatever story this director is trying to tell.
Yeah, and the same with my knowledge of like comics. Like I started really reading DC comics during like Brightest Day, Darkest Night, which is Green Lantern stuff. So then like a lot of the superheroes in like the Justice League and like the big ensemble comics, they are like, yes, they all have their powers already. So there's a lot of origin stuff about the Flash I don't know. So if I say anything, my bad. But yeah, but as a whole, I'd say 3.5. I was pretty entertained. I thought there were some really good, like, epic moments, and I think it did a very good job of being a DC movie. Like, it didn't really feel like a Marvel movie.
Yeah,
Unlike like Wonder Woman and Aquaman felt like more of a DC movie that was getting closer to being a Marvel movie. I feel like The Flash was a DC movie that really kept itself as a DC movie with a different identity, and I appreciated that, which also makes me very excited to see what's going to happen with James Gunn because of, taking over, because with how he took Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yep. Suicide Squad.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I'm like, those are going to be really cool iterations of the DC universe, making it very, similar. Like, there's going to be some humor, there's going to be great action, but then grittier.
It's not going to be grounded in humor.
Exactly.
It's not a comedy with superheroes.
This is going to be a superhero movie with like bigger stakes and bigger things. And I'm going to say it right now: just about every DC superhero could beat the crap out of every Marvel superhero if you put them head to head.
They're all gods.
I would say the DC superheroes.
Wonder Woman, Aquaman, gods, and Superman, gods.
Cool. I'm making a stand. All right. The official stance from the Meddling Kids is that the DC superheroes.
This is why you need to come to the morning meeting.
We planned this ahead of time. He's denying it, but it's true. All right. But yes.
So to get back to right before we jump to the next part, I did want to say that because it is DC and those emotional beats. That's what I appreciated them casting Ezra Miller for. Because I know he's a phenomenal actor. It's the same thing with like Brie Larson. I know she's a phenomenal actress. I think she just got miscast in a Marvel film where they want her to be kind of comedic. That is not her. Most actors will tell you this. There's like, comedy is hard.
Yeah, comedy's hard.
You would assume that, cracking a joke, but it was like, comedy is hard. So it's like, that's where Brie Larson fails in certain parts of the Captain Marvel character. But it was like, that woman can act though.
Yes.
For
sure.
It was like, so it was the same thing with Ezra Miller. Can't really tell a joke. It didn't really lean on, I don't want to see a stand-up special, but
fair, yeah.
Those emotional beats with his backstory and stuff like that were amazing. Like I truly appreciated that performance from Ezra Miller.
Yeah, definitely. And I will say, just tagging on what you said about like comedy's hard. That's why you see so many like phenomenal comedic actors can be amazing dramatic actors, but dramatic actors can't do the same. And not taking anything away from the phenomenal dramatic actors, they're absolutely amazing. But like you just see all these like really funny people that can be like the depths of like. What the human soul is. But yeah, so either way, 3 to 5 for both Mike and I. So I'd say, go see it in theaters. I'd say worth. If you haven't seen it this opening weekend, there's still plenty of time. DC wants you to see it. We say go see it. So from here, we always like to go into a little background about this story. How much money has the film made so far? What are other critics saying about it, etc.? Mike, what'd you find?
All right, so The Flash 2023 came out on June 16th, 2023. Runtime is 2 hours and 24 minutes.
Okay.
Which I can appreciate. It didn't seem that long. This is the first time in a while since, like, as we've been watching movies, it was just like, certain movies just like that latter 20 minutes or whatever it is, just like wrap this up, my G. But this one, not so much.
Yeah, I agree.
I think, which is interesting because he's a speedster, so maybe he was just running through.
Yeah.
I think it did what Doctor Strange did very well. It was just like, it got right to the core of the story without needing to give you too much background information. Like Doctor Strange, within 15 minutes, he's already had his accident and is on his journey to becoming Sakarmataj and all that stuff. So it was just like they really got into it, and this one did the same thing. So it was just like those 2 hours and 2.5 hours did not seem like that, and I can appreciate that. The budget was $220 million. I think between $200 and $220 million.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. The box office, obviously it just came out this weekend, so we don't know the full box office, but I think the prediction initially, which is interesting as I'm watching videos, it was like, I think initially they were looking at 140 mil.
Okay.
But I think as it got closer to its release date, the prediction was about 70 mil.
Oh no. Okay.
Which is, they were saying, which is above Black Adam. Shit, I forgot Black Adam is DC.
Black Adam was
wonder.
trash. Yeah, I was like, whoa.
So obviously, it's above above Black Adam, but like not as great. I can't even remember what Shazam: The Fury of the Gods did.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Even though we covered that one, I can't remember the box office weekend, but 70 mil, we'll see.
Yeah,
like I said, I think it, outside of all the controversy and like how many directors came on and dropped or whatever, I think it is still a solid movie. So hopefully word of mouth will pick that up. Right now, the Rotten Tomatoes is at a 67 67 critic score, 87 audience.
Okay.
So I think one of the biggest complaints is the CGI, since it is so CGI heavy, especially when you get into the time travel stuff and stuff like that. It was just like, it got really, really bad.
It was quite bad.
Genre is action, adventure, fantasy.
Makes
the director is Andy Muschietti, something like that.
Andy Muschietti?
Yes.
Okay.
Who previously directed Mama. It was like a horror movie with Jamie Lannister, I believe. And then It Chapter 2.
Oh.
And so, he doesn't have too many movies.
Interesting.
But it's interesting. And then some of the trivia that I was looking up. So there was 3 or 4 former directors. There was Seth Grahame-Smith, who had he's just a kind of a producer and writer. So he hadn't really directed anything yet. But he did like Dark Shadows, the It movie.
Okay.
And
produced or wrote?
Producer wrote on these things, but hadn't directed anything yet. So I think he was one of the first directors put on this, and then he dropped out. Rick Famuyiwa, something like that. I can't remember. Yeah. Who has directed The Mandalorian and the movie Dope. Okay. And then John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein, who directed Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, yeah.
They were also tied to this.
Interesting.
To direct, but they had to drop out as well.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. They still wrote the story for this.
Oh, right.
So they didn't direct it, but they did the story. So that's interesting too, I guess, because Dungeons and Dragons had that like kind of the levity of comedy, but like it didn't lean into it too much. Yeah. So I think you can see their touch on this movie as well. What else? Oh, sorry. Starring Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, The Flash, Michael Keaton as Batman, also Ben Affleck as Batman, and Sasha Calle as Supergirl. Who is this? Oh, Michael Shannon reprises his role as General Zod. Kersey Clemens as Iris West. Ron Livingston as Henry Allen. I believe he wasn't the original Henry Allen for DCEU. There was another guy. Okay. Maribel Verdú as Nora Allen, and then Jeremy Irons, as Alfred.
Nice.
And then you have the tagline is "Worlds Collide."
Makes sense.
But so that's background information.
Nice. Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Cool. So now we're going to start getting into our spoiler part, but a quick word from our sponsors before we do. Hi. Me. So, first and foremost, I'm a real estate agent here at DC, Maryland, and Virginia, the DMV. My team is the Just Be team, and we are with Compass. That is our brokerage. Compass is a nationwide brokerage, and there are phenomenal agents no matter where you are in the United States. So, if you would like advice or need any help with anything in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, Just Be can help you. Even if you're not in DC, Maryland, or Virginia, and say you're in Idaho, Illinois, or Nevada, we can find phenomenal agents for you and all the resources you need, no matter what your home issue is, whether it's buying, selling, you would like to speak to a lender about a HELOC or refinancing, or you have a construction project going on. We have all those resources. And also, Hunt Comics, we have officially finished our first campaign for Evil as a Weapon Chainsaw Wars successfully. So be on the lookout for that, because we're about 2/3 of the way done the comic. And I think once my artist finishes those last 6 pages, 6 pages, and we get the lettering done, I'll start printing it and I'll be having it online so you can check it out. I'm super excited to hear what you think. But let's get into it.
And quick, also, still there's a few days left with the Push for Better challenge that I'm doing, the push-up challenge. I think right now I'm at 1,000 push-ups out of the 1,500, so I'm doing pretty good. I'm a few behind, because I've been traveling and stuff like that. But I'll make up the what I have left to do.
What's the total you're doing again?
1,541, something. Okay, like that.
So 541.
So it ends on the 23rd, so I got about a week left. I'll definitely make it. So I'll leave the link in the description and everything like that if anybody wants to donate or just see what that organization is about.
And And that explains why his chest is looking so...
I was trying to keep the arms low.
I'm just like, don't put my... Oh, yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm like, oh, me? All right, but now we're going to start getting to our spoilers. So let's open up with this movie. What's going on? What's happening?
All right, so we open up. Barry Allen is at a coffee shop trying to order breakfast. He was like, because of his powers as the Flash, he has a very high metabolism, so he constantly needs to eat to get, for energy. He has an exchange with the barista or the guy at the register, because there's a woman that's usually there that takes his order because it's super complicated.
Yeah. It's a sandwich, peanut butter, honey, raisins, cheese, and there might be jelly on it too.
Yeah.
I'm curious how that tastes.
I'm also curious. Just eat at home. What you?
Well, he's always running, which was a thing. The Flash, Barry Allen, is always running late because he's always getting.
I feel like so many. We just did that with Spider-Man. Where it's just like, if you're a superhero, you're not going to be on time ever.
Yeah.
And this guy is weird because it was like, you are OP as hell. I mean, we'll see in the film. We're just like, if you can literally run somewhere within seconds, how are you actually late? Like, what's going on? What are we doing?
That's very true. Yeah, no, good point.
Like Miles made sense because he was like, he's stopping and saving the city as he's going along.
Yeah, but Barry Allen could just kind of pause time and just go
just like, what are we doing? But anyway, so he has a very complicated order, and he's like frantic because he's late for work. And as he's waiting for his order, he gets a call from Alfred saying that Batman needs him in Gotham. Yeah. There's an issue going on. And so he runs into the bathroom and then comes out, in his costume for the Flash, and he goes to start to run from Central City to Gotham. But before he can start and before we can get the title card, some girl, and you saw this in the trailer, she screams the Flash, "I love you," and stuff like that. And Barry, being this iteration of Barry, is very awkward.
Yeah, such an awkward dude. Yeah.
And then so he, he says hi to them or whatever, and then he goes to run, and it was like. This is the earliest thing that pissed me off, and it's like this iteration of Barry is just like, who taught Esmeralda Miller how to run? Like, who spaghettis their arms?
Right? It looks like he's a speed skater. He's like speed skaters.
Yeah.
Like, with
and
the
it was, I think
back and
that's
forth.
what I'm saying. I was trying to think about it. It was just like, this is not run. Like, because I used to be on used to run like long distance like track and stuff like that. Yeah. And it was just like, who
are you? What are you doing right now?
Who runs like this? Yeah. So that kind of pissed me off right off that. But I was like, you know what? Yeah. Maybe he doesn't have the classic training that I've had.
Yeah. When you have superpowers, you don't need training. You just got powers. You're good.
We learned that one from Spider-Man India. Yeah. But yeah, so he runs from Central City to Gotham, and when he gets there, he sees that there's been like some type of earthquake or something like that. And the hospital is collapsing. So
we learned it's not the earthquake; it's the bad guys blew a bunch of shit up.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Sorry. Yeah, there was an explosion. I think it was as a distraction. Yeah. At a hospital, so like Barry's there to kind of like calm things down, and while he's doing that, Batman is actually chasing Al Falcone. Yes. Because he's they've done like a heist at the hospital. At the
hospital, they did the heist. They have like some kind of some
chemical agent,
virus.
Virus. Like so while Batman chases the bad guys, Barry is supposed to be there, cleaning things up at the hospital.
Which, for the record, like this entire scene just kind of made me think. Which Batman's my favorite superhero because I'm basic, but like because Batman's awesome. But when you see the difference, and then you see even they're like, oh, he could have called Superman, could have called whatever, and I'm like, oh no, Batman kind of sucks, bro. It's just like, oh man, like
he's a street level guy.
It's just
that's why even with him on the Justice League, you're like, all right, so that was the funniest thing about the Justice League movie where it's just like. When they wake up Superman, he flies out into the courtyard or whatever it is. Wonder Woman flies out. Flash runs out. Aquaman jumps or whatever. All of them just literally get there immediately. Yeah. And then you see Batman on foot. He gets there last. So he's not there on the steps outside of the statue. Because he's, doing his cardio.
because it's such a cool chase scene. Batman looks epic in this. It's a phenomenal chase scene. It's a great opening scene of all of this with the Batman stuff, especially. But I just had that thought watching this. I'm like, yo, Barry would have had this done already. You know, I'm like, it's
why do you think he had Barry fix a hospital? Because Batman's just gonna be like,
I can't do that. I know. So Batman's like, let me get on my motorcycle and chase this car. Like Barry would have already had that hand up.
Street level guys love Batman to death. But literally, he has to justify. He has to justify his purpose on the team.
Yeah, sometimes, man.
So yeah, well, Batman is chasing down the robbers or whatever. The Flash is containing things at the hospital.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you see that there's a nurse in the and one of the I don't know hospital term.
The maternity ward.
Yes.
Yeah, or like the nursery ward with all the babies.
Yes. And a part of the building collapses, and those babies just fly out of the window. And this is where we get that first hint of terrible CGI.
Yeah, because literally, I was just writing down in my notes. I'm like, wow, this is a great opening scene. And then it was like, not the CGI babies. And I was like, within 10 seconds, I was like, this is great. Oh my God, what is this? What am I looking at?
So Barry sees that the nurse is falling out with a baby, and several other babies have fallen out, and they're falling to the ground. So being that he's super fast, he's able to kind of stop time.
Yeah.
And as he's trying to save them, because one baby's about to get set on fire, another one has a bunch of knives or and
this was a funny scene with that of he pauses time and he's scanning the situation. Yeah, there's literally fire rushing towards one baby, a bunch of scalpels about to impale another baby, and then another baby. It was something else was acid. It was hydrochloric acid was spilling towards the baby. That was funny. I was like,
it was a cool. The scene was the opening scene was dope. It was just the CGI kind of just takes you out of it.
So bad.
And it was they had his comedic beats because he was you see Barry going towards one of the babies and he runs right past it because he's run out of energy, didn't have his breakfast, so he has to go break into a vending machine first to get a bunch of energy so he can go and save them. He finds creative ways to deflect the acid and the fire and stuff like that. He puts one baby in a microwave, which
terrible idea.
Putting it right to its death.
I know, right? That's what I'm saying.
And so he finds creative ways to save them from whatever peril they were in, and then he catches all of the babies, and there's a dog as well.
Yeah, the dog.
And the nurse, they land on the ground. The nurse is just screaming because of the fact that he's done this in slow motion.
Yeah.
To her, she's just fallen out of the building, and now she's on the ground.
Yeah, literally. It's been a second if that. Yeah.
And so he saved the babies, he saved the nurse, he saved the dog. He pulls the baby out of the microwave, which once again I feel like the one that was in the most danger.
Yeah, well, the microwave dings. All right, so if you think about, I've seen Gremlins.
Solar powered microwave. I know that.
I know what happens when you put anything in a microwave. Gremlins explode. So I can only imagine what it's going to do to babies. But he saves them, and then he keeps going through, and then you see he meets up with Batman, who finished, and he
while Barry saves the babies and stuff at the hospital, Batman is able to stop capture Falcone, but the truck that they're in drives off the bridge.
Yeah,
he's able to catch Falcone, but he's handcuffed the briefcase with the virus to his arm, and
Batman can't really hold on to
he's
Falcone.
with the grappling hook on the bridge. He can't hold on to Falcone and everything. And Alfred's telling him if you let that virus get into the water, Gotham, the Gotham citizens are going to die.
Yeah.
And so as he's about to fall because he can't hold on, you finally get Wonder Woman, who is because like you said, they mentioned earlier, when Alfred called the Flash, he goes, "Well, where's Superman?" You see Superman's somewhere saving a volcano.
Yeah.
They couldn't get a hold of Diana, and Cyborg, so just that's why they called the Flash.
Yeah.
And so Diana gets there, she lassos Batman and Falcone up onto the bridge, saving the day, and then you get this cool scene with the lasso.
Lasso of truth.
Where Diana says, "It was like, well, you can thank me now," and Batman goes, "He was like, I'm way too insecure to say thank you," or something.
I'm way too proud to ever thank anybody for anything.
And then you realize it's kind of the similar scene from Justice League, where he's, obviously it's a lasso of truth, so he's telling the truth. What's his name? Barry touches the lasso and says, "I'm basically admits that he's a virgin."
Yeah.
And then Diana goes away because they're superheroes. They're always on the job.
And one of them they just have her pop up and everything for.
They just did that with Shazam.
Shazam too. Like she's and she's here for like a minute. All right, catch you later.
They just had her in fucking Fast X for some fucking reason.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman? Like as Wonder Woman?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like,
how old are you? I need to watch these films.
That explains so much with
I was about to say, even though the joke was that they were going to fight the Transformers next.
Well, they got to fight the G.I. Joes first, and the G.I. Joes are going to call in the Transformers to help out.
Anyway,
yes.
So Batman, Flash, Wonder Woman save the day. Flash goes, I think.
He makes it back, grabs a sandwich, gets to work.
Yeah. So he grabs a sandwich, goes to work. He's late. He gets chewed out by his boss and two of his coworkers.
They were just the worst.
Yeah,
I hated those.
As one of the guy is like the alchemist or something like that. He's like an actual villain.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know. Like I said, I don't read the comic books. This is just me doing research on for this. But the guy is actually a substantial villain in the Flash lore.
A quick side note: Captain Boomerang is a Flash villain.
Yes.
Just seeing everything the Flash is doing and being like, how the hell is Boomerang a villain?
Captain Cold.
Captain Cold, because Captain Cold's gun gets very cold, so I get that a little bit more, but like Boomerang guy or whatever, Captain Boomerang or whatever, he's a Flash villain. And you see this Flash entrance and you're like, how in the world could he ever be a villain to the Flash?
Once again, I think that's the thing, it was like with the power levels of Marvel, it was just like... With your power level, that's why Lex Luthor is so frustrating as a Superman villain. It was like, really? This guy?
What are you gonna do, buddy? Yeah.
Lex Luthor is a Batman villain at best.
Yeah.
He bought out Wayne, the Wayne Corporation. But anyway, so he gets to work. He gets chewed out by his boss for always being late. He was like, his boss is saying like, you have such potential, like you just don't apply yourself. His coworkers are making fun of him. I think they all went to college together. And that's how he got the job at the lab or whatever. And as they're leaving, because he's like a forensic scientist or something like that, working in the crime lab.
He analyzes evidence and stuff reports.
And as they're leaving, his boss is like having some interview about like some evidence they had found to put somebody away, and we see our first glimpse of Iris West. Iris recognizes Barry. She flags him down to talk to him because she's a reporter. She's a reporter.
Yeah.
And then we hear that they also went to school together. And she mentions about his dad's parole.
Appeal.
Sorry.
The appeal tomorrow.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And she's questioning him about it, and he's real kind of standoffish. But this is the Barry character that we
also you have a reporter asking you about your dad's appeal.
And that's he's like, is this on the record? Is this for
what can I say to you? What can I not?
Yeah. I think that's just weird. I didn't get that at all. I got more. He's just being awkward because he doesn't know what to say. But obviously I can see.
I didn't trust that woman at all. I was like, you're so sketchy, reporter. I ain't telling you nothing. Get away from me. My official response: go fuck yourself.
All right, Jesus Christ! You get in one scandal, and all of a sudden.
I don't handle the media well.
Clearly.
I mean, I handle it super
and
well.
So he kind of leaves her basically like he was saying, like off the record. And she was just kind of saying like, no, as a friend, but can you really trust a reporter?
Because some of the stuff she was saying was a little sketch. I was like, it seems like you're kind of leading him to try and get stuff for this article you're writing. Because she said she was writing an article.
I guess it was one of those things where until somebody shows their true colors, I kind of take it, as it being genuine.
People are bad.
Got it.
Yeah. You also see, too, you get a quick sense, if you don't know, with Barry Allen, when the guy at the head of the lab is talking, we found the evidence, DNA is fine. And Barry's like, I was still working on that to make sure. So it's very much, Barry's doing this because he wants to make sure without a shred of doubt, people are guilty or not guilty. And other people that just say, yep, we got it, we're fine, drives him crazy. And we see why. And that's such a huge, integral part of his character.
Yeah. And so, then because Iris had mentioned his dad's appeal. Apologies.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer. We see him calling his dad, like talking about Bruce had sent, so he gets home, he calls his dad because Bruce had sent him some surveillance from the day that his mom was murdered. And it shows a man at the grocery store, but they can't. It's a lot sharper now. Like they've enhanced it with the current technology. But regardless of it being a clear video, his dad or the man in the video didn't look at the camera.
Yeah, or never
and he
looks
had a hat.
up enough.
And he had a hat on, so you can't tell who it is. So it really is not like the smoking gun that they needed to reverse the sentence. And so his dad is just like, very much like I thank you for trying, but we knew it was a long, it was a big stretch to begin with. Like, just stop obsessing over this. Go live your life. Like, it's because it's been 18 years. No, it
would have been like 10 years.
18, I think.
Oh, no, right, because
he was
this
10 years
Barry,
old.
yeah, because this
Barry
is like 28. Yes, you're right. I was thinking of 18-year-old.
Got
Barry.
math.
Math. Hard.
And they didn't put the time steps on.
Right? Like, how am I supposed to know? All right.
But yeah, so he, as he's talking to his dad, because he's realizing that the evidence that Bruce sent over really can't help his dad. Yeah. He goes to their old house, and as he's talking to his dad, he has a flashback of the day that his mom, was murdered. And so you see that they're in the house. He's in the kitchen with his mom. She's making her like this sauce that she always made. Yeah. And she forgot a can of like crushed tomatoes or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so she asked the dad to go get it from the grocery store, and then she's like dancing with Barry in the kitchen. She calls him Monkey, which is like her nickname for him. And it's a very sweet moment. And then I don't think they show the full. Oh, they do show the full thing, right?
Yeah, they probably showed it around here.
So it's like a little bit later, Barry's in his room, his mom is in the kitchen, his dad is obviously at the grocery store, and he hears a scream in the kitchen. And this is what I guess, just outside looking in, it was just like, I hear a scream in the kitchen, I'm going to be a little bit more urgent than Barry was. Yeah. Like, he literally just like, what was that? And then like kind of slowly goes down the steps. As Barry leaves his room, you see that his dad is finally pulled up to the house. Yeah. After going to the grocery store.
I think the dad heard the scream too.
Yeah, and his dad hears the scream, and like a regular human being, you hear a scream. He says Nora, calling out his wife's name, runs in, and he's already in the kitchen when Barry makes it to the kitchen, and his mom has been stabbed. Yeah. And like, so he tells Barry to go for help, call for help.
I wonder where the dude went that stabbed her, because wasn't a lot of time.
So I think that's why I was curious. And that's why I was curious as to how, because obviously I just watched the Flashpoint Paradox and stuff like that. So I was curious as to how they were going to tell that story. Yeah. When it came to his mother's murder, but so obviously Barry's a little bit emotional, going back in his memory. So he starts running out of frustration, and he runs so fast that he's realizes that he like kind of runs faster than time itself. Yep. So he's like kind of taps into this this chrono.
The speed force. So he uses the speed force to then get to the chrono bubble. Or
chronosphere.
Yeah, chronosphere. Chronosphere.
And like, so as he's running, he realizes that he's running through time.
Backwards through time.
So he goes back to when he was at the hospital saving the
forwards through time.
Let's not.
Yeah, sorry.
Multiverse stuff. Let's stick to this universe because I'm in here. But yeah, so he realized that like he goes back to earlier that day when he was at the hospital saving the babies, and he's like, "Holy shit, I can run, like I'm so fast that I can travel through time." And so he immediately goes to tell Bruce, and Bruce is like. And then you see this in the trailer as well. It's basically like, don't, like, because Barry says, I can fix everything. I can save my mom. I can save your parents. Yeah. Trying to like lean on or like be relatable to the fact that they both have, their parents were, at least one of the parents were murdered. Yeah. And stuff like that. And Bruce says something I really like, the scars we have make us who we are.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Because he says, it's like, Barry says that he can fix things, and Bruce says you can also break things. You don't know. And I think that's the beauty of when it comes to time, and Hollywood has done it over and over. But it was like the rules of time travel, right? It was just like, is it the butterfly effect, or is it the, kind of the Marty McFly or something like that? It was like, what what happens when you do change time? Because it was like most people say, "Oh, I want to go back and kill Hitler," but it was like, but what will the future look like? Mm-hmm. You're not going to just come back to where you were.
Yeah,
you don't change one moment in time and then come back exactly to the certain spot. And it was like now that person just never existed. There's ripples to that. There's a ripple effect to that moment. So.
Yeah. Ashton Kutcher did do it best. You're right.
Yes.
Yeah, butterfly effect.
Kills himself.
Oh my.
But yeah, so
I will say with this though, question: if Bruce Wayne had just said yes to getting food with Barry, could all of this have been avoided?
Yeah.
Right? Because so what happens is Barry's like, Bruce is like, I'm a very lonely man. Yeah. Don't be like me. There's a lot of things you can do. And then Barry's like, well, you want to grab some food or a bite? And Bruce is like, not yet. Maybe next time. And he drives away. So he leaves Barry alone with his thoughts. Yeah. If Batman would have grabbed a damn slice of pizza with the Flash, none of this would have happened.
You can't say I'm super lonely. It was like, you want to get food?
Hey, buddy.
God, relax. That was weird. How do you mention the fact that you're lonely? I try to resolve that. You're like, hey, weirdo.
Well, I mean, no, I see that because he's like, I'm lonely, and he's just like, he doesn't want to let people in like that. But I do think, if he just would have said, all right, let's grab a slice with Barry, it would have movie over.
Movie can't move. Yeah. So Barry invites him out to get food since he mentioned being lonely. Bruce says, some other time. As he drives off, Iris shows up. Because I think it's outside of Barry's apartment. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And she shows up to kind of apologize. And like,
why does she know where he lives?
That I don't know.
You're right. Reporters. Can't trust them.
God damn it. I want to see the good in people, goddamn. This world is too dark. Especially DC. It's super dark. There's not a flashlight in one city. So yeah, the Flash. Iris comes to visit Barry. That's trying to apologize for earlier, and trying to just be a friend actually. Yeah. And
Barry steals shit. It's not superhero at all. He steals beer.
Oh yeah. She comes in the apartment. He always has beer. He doesn't have any. He goes into his neighbor's apartment, steals beer, and then they're talking about the fact that he has evidence, but it was like since his dad didn't look up, it's kind of it doesn't really help. And then he was also talking to Bruce about the like I said, the butterfly effect. It was just like he was thinking, how do I go back? They're like trying to figure out a way to go back without actually impacting the rest of the timeline. Yeah. And he figures out, he remembers, since we had seen in the flashback, that his dad went for the tomato sauce. So it was just like, and his mom had mentioned earlier that they had went to the grocery store, but then she just forgot it. Yeah. So he was thinking if the tomato sauce is the key, basically. So if he's able to get the tomato sauce to the house the first time. Yeah. In that first grocery trip, his dad won't leave, so he'll be there to protect. Because his thought is the guy came to whoever murdered his mom broke into the house thinking that it was empty
because he saw the dad leave.
Yeah. And so if he sees that there's a car in the driveway, he won't come to to murder his mom. Yeah. And that way he can impact the past without actually impacting the people from the past. And so immediately he leaves.
He just leaves her in his apartment. He's just like, all right, well, bye, see ya.
And so he runs back. He runs back to, and this is where you see that initial, his second trip through time, through the chromosphere.
And you really get the CGI effects.
Oh my Jesus Christ. Yeah, it was horrible. CGI. Talk about, like I said, it looked like the baby scene reminded me of Son of the Mask. Go look it up. Okay. The CGI from Son of the Mask. And then this reminded me of the Matrix Revolutions, where it was just super rubbery.
Yeah, like super rubbery Agent Smith.
And so he runs back in time. He goes to the grocery store when a young Barry and the mom are in the grocery store. Yeah. He finds a tomato sauce, just puts it in the cart. Yeah.
Technically, it's not tomato sauce, it's crushed tomatoes. She makes homemade sauce. Don't you come under chef skills?
My bad. That's on your board.
And the blue can, not the green.
That was 90s. It was 90s products. I couldn't read it. But yeah, so he puts the tomatoes in the in the cart, and then just leaves. And then as he's running back, he sees that in the chromosphere, he sees birthdays that he didn't have with his mom and moments he didn't have with his mom, like just the family. And as he's about to run back to his time, we see another speedster, in the kind of purple speedster,
big monster speedster.
And he kind of pushes him out of the chromosphere into. But before he was ready, basically. So instead of going back to the present day, he lands in 2013. Sorry. Yeah. And so he's outside of his house. he goes into the house, and there's a woman standing in the kitchen. He touches her shoulder, which is the worst. I'm tired of movies doing this.
Right.
Like, announce yourself.
Yeah, right. Just sneak up on people.
But yeah, he taps her shoulder, and it's his mom.
Yeah.
And she says hi to him, and obviously they have this moment because to her she hasn't seen him in a week or so.
Yeah, like a semester or something. Yeah.
But he hasn't seen her in a decade. Oh, sorry, 18, almost 2 decades.
Yeah,
18 years.
Yeah.
And
last time we did, she was getting murdered.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so like they have a very sweet moment where he's hugging her, and like they have a thing. She was like, he says I love you. She says I love you first.
He says, or yes, she says, I love you too, I love you more, I love you first.
Yes.
And mom says, I love you first.
Yeah.
Which is very cute.
And then his dad comes in, and because obviously they're about to have, I guess lunch. It's the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or dinner, or like he is expected home from college for dinner or something like that. Yeah.
And so they sit down and they eat. His dad, that's what I was saying earlier, his dad had mentioned that he looks older.
Yeah. Because he like cut his hair.
Yeah, and he cut his hair. She was like, his mom says, I can see your eyes. Mm-hmm. And so they're sitting down. His dad is asking him about school. He doesn't really know.
He's like, yes, school. I go to school.
And then as he's sitting there talking, because he's also like trying to ask questions without revealing the fact that this is not his regular timeline. So he's like, how was your day or month or the last 18 years
or the memories we have together? And then he also like, you could push me on a swing, but that'd be weird because I'm an adult. So there were some funny little moments.
Yeah. I think in those moments, yes. I think it was like I said, Ezra is not without a comedic, like a comedic timing or anything like that. It's just like I think certain times when they were kind of relied on it. Because like in the Justice League, like Batman kind of was funny, but not too much. Right? Yeah. Like there was like Aquaman-ish, but not. You know what I'm saying? I think they literally relied on the awkwardness of Barry Allen to really bring out the comedy in those movies, and I think that's what he was trying to do here. Yeah. And it worked when it worked, and when it didn't, it really took me out.
For sure. I get that. Yeah.
But yeah, so as he's sitting having a meal with his parents, he sees this alternate version of himself, a lot younger, who's 18 years old, coming home from his freshman year, freshman semester of college. And so he's like, holy shit. Yeah. And so he goes outside, stops him, and you see this in the trailer. It was like, you have my face. Why do you steal my face? Yeah. And they go up to his bedroom or whatever, and I'll say alternate Barry and Prime Barry. Okay. Prime Barry is 2023. Alternate Barry is 2013. Yeah. That's where it's sticking it.
Fair.
And so Prime Barry tells alternate Barry, like, he's a superhero, travel through time, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, but doesn't tell him why he's here. He didn't say why I'm traveling through time, but I did travel through time.
Because I think it's very much him trying to not affect the timeline more than he already has.
Which has just been horrendous.
Which is once again, you already did it. Yeah. You can't get in double trouble.
You might as well just keep going, man.
They can't sue you twice. Yeah. I don't know law.
So they can only charge you for one crime.
Exactly. Double jeopardy. But yeah, so we have these moments where like this is where you see the difference between Prime Barry and Alternate Barry. Since Alternate Barry is 10 years younger, and he didn't go through the hardships,
and he had like a loving mother and father,
and stuff like that. You do see like not necessarily entitled, just like a lot more immature.
He's a douche.
He came home because of the fact that like his mom could do his laundry.
Yes, exactly,
and stuff like that. So this was the most annoying moment. He was just like, "Show me your powers again." And he was like, "No, man, we don't have time." He was like, "Mom," he was like, "You're really gonna rat me out?"
He's gonna tattle to mom about this, and that's crazy.
Yeah. And so like Prime Barry's like trying to think what he can do and stuff like that, and he realized what day it is, and it's the day that he received his powers. Yeah.
At the Friends.
At the Friends, but because of the fact that like he didn't intern at the Friends, alternate Barry knows nothing about that, so he's just like, oh, I have a date with Iris, like that's why I came home, so mom can do my laundry, like I need to get out of here, and he's like, we need to get you to the lab because, like he said, he doesn't know now that this is an alternate timeline, so he doesn't know the future at all.
Which I think that's also part of the reason why he had to get kicked out, because I've had this thought is if his mom didn't get killed and Dad was in prison, he would have never gone to the Friends Club in the first place, so he would have never gotten.
So that's what I'm saying. Like I realized, like as I was going back through my notes, he didn't stop there. The speedster stopped.
Stopped.
So I was confused at that because since it happened so fast.
Exactly.
And since that chromosphere world is very like kind of hard to to just see. At times. But anyway, So they go to the lab. Prime Barry kind of recreates the what was happening, what happened when he got his powers. And so he opens the window. He sits him at a certain seat.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that I didn't realize this too. It was like, so when the Flash got his powers, he got shocked by lightning, but it was there were chemicals that splashed on him that kind of gave him his powers.
It was both.
Yeah. And so as he's sitting alternate Barry there, they're talking, and it was like,
sorry, quick time. Children, do not splash chemicals and get struck by lightning. Just, that needs to be said. Don't do it. The two Meddling Kids do not endorse splashing yourself with chemicals and getting hit by lightning to get powers. Don't do it.
You don't speak for me.
All right, sue him. Sue this motherfucker.
They recreate the accident, but as Prime Barry is trying to set it up, alternate Barry was like, I don't want to get shocked by lightning, so there's like,
you want powers or not? You know you're going to get powers from this. Shut up and get the powers. Yeah.
And so like they scuffle, and when the lightning strikes, the chemicals hit. Prime Barry is in between the lightning and alternate Barry, so they both still get shocked by lightning.
Yeah.
But he realizes when they wake up that he doesn't have it. Like Prime Barry doesn't have his powers anymore, but alternate Barry does.
Yeah.
And so somehow,
honestly, well, this was a really funny scene, though, like where they make fun of the running because they have Ezra Miller do the side to side speed running while he's just normal, and it looks ridiculous. That was really funny. Yeah.
It's funny, they did that in Flashpoint too, where it was just like he goes to run out. He was like, I can't do anything. Barry Allen can't do anything, but the Flash can. Yeah. So he goes to run outside the police station and just slips and falls. And everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing? But yeah, so they get back to alternate Barry's apartment, and he's like, Prime Barry's trying to tell him about his powers. He's like, that's why you're hungry. Like, this is what you can do. Like, that's why your clothes are on fire.
Chaos ensues with alternate Barry. It just he destroys everything basically. Lights his clothes on fire. Naked dude runs through the streets. Yeah.
So what happens? So we see scenes of like alternate Barry learning about his powers, but not really listening. And I think that's what was frustrating.
Yeah. He does not listen at all. Yeah.
And so after he shows him how to put the suit on or whatever, they're in a park somewhere, and some lady looks at her phone, gets some news report, and she freaks out.
Yeah. And
so they go to a coffee shop or something like that, and on the news they see that General Zod's ship has entered the Earth's atmosphere, and then he there's a broadcast saying basically they're looking for a Kryptonian that landed on Earth. Bring him to me or else type of thing. And so that's when Barry realized, being that he does have the hindsight of being from an alternate future, but still the future. He was like, shit, this is when Zod came. We need to find Superman. Superman's the only one that can stop him. Yeah. And so this is when they go back to Barry's apartment, and you realize that he has two roommates. Those two roommates are the same lab techs from his job in an alternate future. And I think this was another funny scene, but it wasn't because of Barry. It was because of like everybody else. Where it was just like he mentions like Aquaman or something like that, and he was like, he talks to this. He was like, "You talking about a mermaid?"
He's talking about a mermaid, really strong, superpower mermaid. But this is too cool too, because then this is where we realize, because he keeps saying,
"Back to the Future."
Yeah, Back to the Future. Michael J. Fox. Yeah, Michael J. Fox.
But it's
Marty McFly. But
Eric Stoltz.
In this universe, Eric Stoltz is Marty McFly.
Which classically, it was originally. But I think they filmed a month or so with Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly. I didn't know that, actually. Yeah. So originally Eric Stoltz got cast. Yeah. They were actually shooting and everything like that, and they realized, he doesn't fit this.
Got you.
And then they got Michael J. Fox.
Got you. Okay.
But in this universe, Eric Stoltz was, and they mentioned other things. They were just talking about like Footloose, and it was like somebody else.
Yeah, somebody else. Kevin Bacon, something else. Yeah. So we learned that there's no Aquaman, there's no Wonder, there's none of those people.
Yeah, and we get a nice moment. So he called Cyborg. He looks up. I think he looks up Cyborg first, and sees that Victor is still like a football player. He hasn't had his accident yet. And then he looks at Wonder Woman, and she's some old lady in Las Vegas, or something like
some
that.
magician. Yeah, that's the only thing he can find.
He goes to call Arthur Kent. Arthur Curry.
Curry. Yeah.
Aquaman's dad, and he's like, is your son? What's Aquaman's name?
Wait, isn't Arthur Aquaman and the other one's a different name?
So you're right. Arthur is Tom is Tom
Thomas Curry. Yeah.
So he says, "Is Arthur there?" And he was like, "You mean my dog?"
My dog. Yeah.
And then Barry whispers, "He's like, are you married to the Queen of Atlantis?" And he looks over at his wife, and he was like, "Nah, fam."
No. He's like, "Have you had like a romantic visit with like a fish woman or some sort?" And
he was like, "Fucking jokes, just get off my phone, bro."
Exactly.
So you see that none of the Justice League exists. He says, "I created a world without metahumans," basically. Yeah. But he mentioned the Batman, and they are familiar with the Batman.
Yeah.
Just nobody knows who he is. So it's like they leave, they go to Wayne Manor.
Which is totally decrepit, looks all messed up, no one's there.
And so they see that like someone was cooking or something like that, and it was like there's a shoe on the floor, but like it's empty. So they're looking at a painting on the wall, and they get attacked by this like man and like fucking like long hair, long beard,
long hair. Yeah.
And this is where it was funny because of the fact that since Prime Barry doesn't have his powers. He keeps getting his ass kicked.
And Alternate Barry's just watching.
And it was like, Alternate Barry, since he has a speed force, and it was like, you can't attack him, which is it's the same thing with like we talked about Spidey sense, how it is very convenient to the plot often. So it's like, how do you shock a speedster? Like, because there's times he gets shot and stuff like that. It was like, how?
Yeah. Oh, well, when he gets shot later, I think I know how that happened. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so they travel to Wayne Manor. They meet Bruce. This universe's iteration of Bruce Wayne, who is Michael Keaton.
Yep, Michael
from
Keaton.
The earlier Batman film. I think it was that Tim Burton?
No, it's Tim Burton.
Okay.
Yeah, Tim Burton Batman. Very good Batman movies. At least the first one or two were. Yeah, and that was Jack Nicholson Joker.
Yeah, he explains using, because since he's cooking spaghetti. He explains how when Barry went back in time, he basically affected the multiverse.
Yeah.
Because Barry was trying to understand, like, I just saved my mom. Your parents died decades before that. So how does that affect you? And I think it was this movie's version trying to reconcile bringing in
Michael Keaton's Batman. Yeah, because it was so basically there's like an intersection point, and for those that can't see because you're listening, I'm crossing my arms. So the intersection point will be the same, but if you have an intersection point that's the same, you'll have like further in the past. And then so Batman in this universe, by this point in time, when Zod's coming, he hasn't been Batman for like 10, 20 years. He's been retired, even though when Zod comes in the other Prime universe, Batman's much younger and still alive and kicking. But because there's that cross intersection, everything else is different. And that's all we're going into with time travel.
Oh, please. I was about to say, please don't go for
it. Yeah, that's all you get.
And so,
have fun with it. Austin Powers, have fun with it. Don't think too hard.
And so Barry realizes that they need Superman. The only person that can stop Zod is Superman.
Yeah.
And they asked Bruce for help, and he was like, "I'm
pass." Music pass, and he just walks away.
And so the Barry sneak into the Batcave and use the Bat computer to like tap into like NASA to track down they can't find Clark Kent.
Yeah.
But they track down when he landed in Smallville and stuff like that. So just trying to work backwards.
Or they're trying to track.
Track. At the same and this is the scene I was talking about where just like alternate Barry, since he's 18, just got powers. Is like you could see that immature. He was already immature to begin with, but it was just like he's been like so he's like he meets Batman. He's like super excited about it. He gets to the Batcave, and it was just like he's not taking anything serious. And Prime Barry was like, "Can you understand the severity of what's going on?" And I think this is where I like. This is where I started to turn on alternate Barry. He's just like, bro, I'm just young. Sometimes I can't help myself. He was just like because of the fact that he's excited, and I think it reminded me that he's young. I know that it's one of those things where, like, I think to exposit something, but to actually show it in the film. Yeah, and we always talk about this. It was just like writers need to stop telling us things and show it to us. This is why you got to this medium.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't need to talk us through character development. Like we should be able to see it, tell it in the story. And so, like, when he explains, it was like, bro, I'm just 18, I just got powers. It was like, you came from the fucking future. Or
this is my first day.
So it was just, I think him explaining that and seeing that, I was like, oh, he is young. Yeah. This does make sense. So they continue, like, so while, while Alternate Barry sleeps, Prime Barry is looking, looking for Superman. And he has a moment with Bruce, because even though Bruce isn't in the Batcave, he's like monitoring them from his office, and he's just basically trying to convince him Barry's trying to convince Bruce to help them out.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And so finally you see Bruce takes what Barry says to heart. He looks at a photo of his mom and his dad and him when he was younger, and he moves it to the side, and you see that it's an eye scan, and then the wall opens up, and you see like the different iconic Batman suits from the Tim Burton era. And then so finally in the morning, you see that Barry has found that there was a ship or a meteor that...
Well, Barry didn't find it. Batman found it. Bruce found it. Yeah, so Barry falls asleep, and then when he wakes up to like next to like a hot cup of coffee.
Oh,
and a folder
okay.
Bruce. He wakes up next to a folder from Bruce, who's like, hey... Yes, because Batman does have that. He doesn't have powers, but he can always find...
He is the world's greatest detective.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of iterations of Batman do lean into that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I was saying. I was just watching the Gaslight, Batman My Gaslight, and it was like, that's in the fucking 20s or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, Batman finds, thank you for that. Batman finds that there was a ship that crash landed in Moscow.
Yeah.
Like around the same time that Clark was supposed to have landed in I think Kansas or whatever. And so like now they need to get to Moscow, and then you see that it was like alternate Barry wakes up. He was like, "Cool, how are we gonna get to Moscow?" And you see the bat plane kind of being lowered into the bat cave.
And they did a great job too. I mean, like it's Michael Keaton Batman, so it's the Tim Burton car, Tim Burton bat jet, all that. So it's not the Christopher Nolan one. It's not the new one. No, it's like the kind of more like iconic, sleek looking bat stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, and so they fly to Moscow. They get to this kind of like this facility that's kind of like heavily. There's a lot of soldiers and stuff like that.
Yeah, somewhere in Siberia. It's like
And so they sneak into the facility, and then Batman kind of like disappears for a second, and then they're sneaking around. Obviously, alternate fucking Barry kicks something.
Fucks up, of course.
And and then so the guards are called, and you see like they're pointing guns at them. You have alternate Barry with his powers in the suit.
Yeah.
You have Prime Barry with no powers, and it was like I can't do anything. So it was just like alternate Barry. Like one guard fires a shot at Prime Barry. Alternate Barry kind of moves his head a bit to avoid the bullets, and then more come, so he has to push him out of the way. But I think they explained earlier about like the understanding. I think I appreciated this. Understanding the science of certain people's powers, right? Yeah. So the same thing was like, I think the boys did it where I think a plane was crashing, and one of the people was like to Homelander, why can't you lift the plane? But it was like, depending on how I come in, I could break it in half. Yeah, exactly. And it's not as simple as just like lifting something. Yeah. So the same thing with moving somebody at a super fast pace, even if you kind of just push them a little bit. Yeah. And so like he moves.
He went like 5 feet, like boom to boom. Yeah, like 5 feet over.
He moves Prime Barry literally 5 feet to get out of the way of the bullets. And Prime Barry's like, what did you do? And all of a sudden he just starts throwing up.
Puking up just this vile green sludge, basically.
But luckily Batman comes in, he kicks out the guards. Fucking amazing.
He's like swooping in, grabs, like he just defies gravity. It's like comes in, swoops in, grabs a dude, puts him up in the air, like launches. I'm like, what? It was really cool. Michael Keaton Batman kicks ass.
Yes. Yeah. And so, actually, both Batman in this movie.
Absolutely.
It was really dope. Yeah. But yeah, so Batman saves them. They find there's like this cute, like this ball in the center of a room. Like obviously they're holding a prisoner.
Were you gonna call it a cute ball? Was that what I heard?
I was gonna call it a cube.
Cube. You said cube, not cute. And I was like, a cute ball.
So, hey, lonely guy, relax.
Like, hey, whatever, man. You want to get some food after this or something? Or
not this time.
Oh, okay.
And so they break into the ball or whatever it's holding a woman. They were expecting to see Clark, but it's not. But still, Barry being Barry, he's a superhero.
Yeah,
so
Prime
he's
Barry.
Like, yeah, we need to get her out of here.
Yeah, because Michael Keaton was like, Batman was like, fucking leave her. It's just like the other two were like, nah, get her out of here. Like, not even get her out of here, just leave her. We got shit to do. Prime Barry
like, this is not whomst we came for. But Prime Barry is just like, no, like she needs help. Yeah. So he grabs her,
and she's like all like super skinny,
very
super emaciated. Yeah,
because they basically were depriving, like they kept her in prison.
Black. Yeah, basically. Or like
and so they grab her and they run out, and then they get intercepted by guards. And this is where you. The funniest fucking scene. We're like, so they're walking down the hallway. One of the lab techs comes out, and like Batman just jumps at him.
And the dude doesn't give a fuck.
So I said, "You don't realize you're in fucking Russia?"
Yeah, and the lab tech just looks at him like, what? And he just like takes out a gun.
It was so fucking funny because it's just like the basic, like you. I'll do it. I'll punch you, bro.
Scientist. And scientist like, I don't give a fuck.
So they get the guards. The scientist calls the guards, and this is where you get alternate Barry getting shot.
Yeah. Well, because I think so. What happened is he gets shot, but it's because he's like, I'll handle this, and he goes and like punches the dude. I think it was he moved too fast, so the guard shot the bullet, and I think Barry ran into the bullet.
Okay,
that's what I'm gonna say happened because like it happened bang bang. He's like,
I don't know. I was gonna say my thing was just make it make sense. Like,
yeah.
You could be faster than the bullet, then get caught by one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they escape. But so now you have fucking alternate Barry. You know he has the powers. Mm-hmm. He has a wound to his leg, which I thought they healed fast, but whatever.
Yeah, I know, right? He did not heal that very fast. Yeah.
So they escape until the roof of the facility, and then they get captured by all the guards there. Yeah. And everybody's hands up or whatever, and
but the woman's in the sunlight.
Yeah, the woman's in the sunlight now. So then Barry goes like, "What are we gonna do?" Mm-hmm. And Batman, with his hands up, just goes, "Try not to die." And then you see his hand his hands are up, and he turns it to a fist. Mm-hmm. And as he turns it to a fist, you see that the woman, now that she's in sunlight, she's in the air. Yeah. And because she is Supergirl. She's Kara? No. I can't remember her name.
I think it's like Kara.
Her name is Kara, but I can't remember her Kryptonian name.
I don't know.
But basically, she's from Krypton.
She's Supergirl.
Yeah, so she's Supergirl.
Spoiler, Supergirl. Yeah. But it was really cool. So, like when she first gets in the sunlight, like her like super amazing skeletal hand like starts like getting muscle on her. Yeah, it starts like getting bigger because she's a plant. Kryptonians are plants, and then
So she takes basically out all the guards. Batman helps.
Yeah, Batman helps. I mean, that's pretty weird. And then she just kills all these. All these dudes are dead.
No, they're sleeping.
They're sleeping. They like to take long naps. They get so tired when they fight me. No, they're dead. Yeah.
And so they go back to Wayne Manor, and that's when you find out. She says her name is Kara. Yeah. She had come to Earth to protect Kal-El.
Clark.
But her ship crashed and the humans captured her. And this is where you see her, like, that's what I was saying earlier. It was like she doesn't have the same love for humanity that Clark had. Yeah. Because of the fact that their initial interactions, they put her in a fucking cage.
They have kept her in like a dark cage for like 15 years or longer, 20 years, however long.
And so like she has no love for humanity. She's like, fuck that, I'm out.
Yeah.
So she leaves, and while after she leaves, Prime Bear is like, okay, so if she's not gonna help us, I need to get my powers back so I can undo what I did. Yeah. And so he asked Bruce for his help, so they recreate the accident. Yeah. And it doesn't work the first time. You see like Prime Barry gets like electrocuted to near death. Yeah. It's like,
when was this? But then Supergirl sees.
That's what I'm saying. So
parallel. Yeah.
So as they're trying to recreate the experiment, Supergirl goes to see Zod or whatever, and she sees that he's having a standoff with the army. Yeah. And basically he says, since you didn't bring the Kryptonian to me, I'm taking this as an act of war.
Yeah, for sure.
And so he starts killing. So basically he starts his siege on the world. And he has a machine that's going to terraform Earth into Krypton. And so this
big sky laser.
Yeah, this is when she goes back to the manor, and they've tried the experiment once. It electrocuted Prime Barry, but it did not give him powers. And so he wants to do it again, but I think something happens with the machine.
Yeah, the machine's fried. Like the circuits and stuff in the machine are fried. Because they put like a big bat kite up in the air with a bat lightning rod. Kite. So the bat kite with the bat lightning rod went through.
And so she carries Barry up into the storm,
which of course is just such an epic scene.
It's so dope.
So just like in her arms, just carrying her up.
And she says the same thing to him that he said to her in the facility. She was like, "Don't worry, I've got you."
Yep. Yeah.
And because I think she asked him,
She might have asked him earlier, like, why did you save me or whatever, and he's like, because it was the right thing to do or something. Yeah,
and I think that turns her to the fact that it was like, even though, humans did that to you, that's not all of humans. Like, those aren't our people.
Yeah.
And she says the same thing about Zod. It was just like, Krypton was a beautiful place. We want peace. We want war.
Yeah.
And Zod and his followers aren't my people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it was that understanding, the fact that it was like one interaction with a certain person is not a full representation of those people.
For sure.
So she takes him up into the sky. He gets electrocuted, gets his powers back. And then now they have to come up with a plan to take down Zod.
Yeah.
And so I think what's his name? Alternate Barry makes a suit out of one of Batman's old suits.
Yeah, Batman suits. Yeah.
So it's like spray painted and stuff like that. Cutting off the ears.
That was really funny.
And so the team goes to fight Zod and his followers. As they initially get there, they're getting kind of shot at by the army, and just because of the fact that they don't know whose side.
They just see like another random alien-looking vessel coming in here,
and so Kara goes to find Zod. Batman is going to provide air support, leaving the two Barrys to take on Zod's army.
Yeah.
And so you get these really cool scenes where like Batman's just taking out air support. Kara has an exchange with Zod because she's the Kryptonian they were looking for.
Yep.
And he tells her basically that they needed whatever Kryptonian that escaped, they needed their DNA to power the machine so they could terraform Earth.
Yeah, to rebuild into Krypton.
Yeah, into Krypton. And so they assumed that. I guess I didn't watch Man of Steel. Maybe that was the whole point.
You never watched Man of Steel?
I did, but I haven't seen it recently.
Yeah, they were terraforming the planet to make it. Yeah, that's the lasers. They wanted to do Krypton. Yeah.
So they actually found Clark, but he wasn't the one that they needed.
Yeah.
And then Kara asked, was like, well, what happened to him? He was like, well, he didn't survive.
They killed a baby.
Yeah.
They killed a CGI
And so
baby.
she, obviously, that was her mission to come to Earth, was to protect Clark. And so she, is super, like angry at Zod. So they start fighting. You see the Barrys. And it was like very much like Ant-Man and the Wasp, where it was just like, this is his first battle scene.
Oh, yeah.
Alternate Barry's first battle scene. So he's kind of teaching him how to use his powers and stuff like that. And it was like, yes, the Kryptonians are very strong, but it was like, they're not, and they're fast, but they're not faster than us.
Yeah, they're slightly faster. Like the Kryptonians can kind of keep up.
Yeah, and that was the whole thing with Superman,
Yeah,
right? It was
exactly.
like I know they have their race; they've done it a few times.
Yeah. Well, so with this whole thing too, like it's like the Kryptonians are really strong. We can't kill them, but we can hit them, and they proceed to kind of make it look like they're killing them. Yeah. But thank goodness they told me that they're not killing them.
So I just know they're asleep.
So I just know they're sleeping because it looks like the Flashes are killing them. Though I will say, with all of this, it made me think with this giant battle is. How are like all Kryptonians kind of like the same strength level in the sun?
Well, so I don't know because all of them had. I assume they were powered by their suits.
Yeah, right.
Too.
I guess there were some.
Right.
I don't know
because I think the thing is right. The two kids that left the Krypton or whatever were like, at least the way they made it seem, they were kind of genetically enhanced.
Yeah, fair.
In both Kara and Clark.
Fair.
So
okay.
I assume that the suits were the thing powering the group. So I assume they're strong, yes.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I think being that they were genetically enhanced, that's why Earth gave them such powers.
So was Superdog genetically enhanced too? What about Super Baby? I'm trying to think of all the other super things that came along.
I only know what's on film.
There's Superdog and
there's Crypto,
Crypto, yeah. Okay.
But anyway, so as the Barrys are fighting the army, Batman's providing air support. Kara's fighting Zod. We do get the scene where Kara just kind of gets defeated by Zod.
She didn't get defeated. She gets killed.
She gets stabbed. Yeah. She gets stabbed, and then he uses whatever. Like there was like something to extract her DNA.
Yeah.
And that ends up killing her. And then at the same time, Batman tries to take out the big ship. But it has a shield on it, so he shoots it. The shield protects it. That ship fires back and takes out Batman's ship, and he's like, I can't eject.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to go out, I'm not going to go out on my own.
Yeah.
So he crashes into the ship. So we see both Batman and Kara die. And the Barry's like, we can't let this happen.
Yeah.
They mentioned that obviously they've traveled through time.
Yeah.
And so they together travel back in time to undo what just happened.
Alternate Barry's like, hell, we need to do this.
Yes.
And the other Barry's like, that's not really the best idea. Besides, you're not really fast enough anyway. But then they try it anyway, which I'm just like, you're just making more spaghetti this way. Like,
you're feeding a family over there?
Come on, a small family with the spaghetti.
That's funny. But yeah, so they go back in time to try to undo what just happened. And I think it does work. So Prime Barry tells Batman, "Oh, that shield has a ship. You can't take it out, but you can take out the giant."
Yeah, well, you can't take out the giant.
So yeah, Batman tries to take out the giant. It is unsuccessful.
Yeah.
Alternate Barry tries to help Kara while fighting Zod, but they also end up losing.
Yeah.
And so like he's like, we need to go back again.
Yeah.
And so they go back again, and the same result.
And now you see like more too, because like then you get alternate Barry. He now has like a piece of metal. Like
so he
gets
cut. He gets cut in the face.
Yep.
And then like he gets like a Kryptonian spear in his arm, and now they're in. So like they keep going back to chromosphere.
Yeah.
And jumping out in the necessary times.
But Prime Barry stops.
And he was like, just give me a minute. He was like, yeah, sure. Like, alternate Barry says, yeah, sure. And he sees that no matter what they do, this is like basically fate.
Fate, yeah.
It's going to happen. There's nothing they can do to stop it.
Because where they talk about the intersection points before earlier being those intersection points happen in all the multiverses, that's fate. And that's the same. So it goes back into like that. We didn't say that earlier, but yeah, so that's the fate of this world is to be destroyed.
Yes.
And like alternate Barry keeps coming back with more metal implanted in him and more like fucked up and like damaged, etc.
And so alternate like Prime Barry is trying to tell alternate like we can't do anything to change this, but I think I can. And he says, basically, I'm going to go back and undo what I did. And this is where you see that he says, basically, their mom had died. That's why that's why Prime Barry had come back to in the first place. He tried to keep that from Alternate Barry, but Alternate Barry heard him tell Bruce that when they were talking about it. So he knows already. Yeah. And he was like, nobody has to die. We can, being the fact that we can travel through time, we can fix whatever anything that goes wrong, basically. Yeah. And so you see that him being young, him being just wanting to help. He wants to be a superhero. So this is his mission to save his friends, save the world. And Prime Barry realizes like no matter how many times you go back, and he kind of convinces him. But then you see that speedster from earlier, who was purple. He comes in and tells him like, don't this is. Basically, you realize that the purple speedster from earlier has the same scars, the same metal sticking out of its alternate Barry. And it was like, how long have you been here? Yeah. And he was like, if he doesn't even know because of the fact that he kept trying to go back, kept running to try to alter the past.
And it's great because like alternate
we'll call him Purple Speedster. That's
Purple
old
Speedster.
Barry.
Okay,
that's
Purple
old.
Speedster.
That's Purple Speedster is
Yeah, so Purple Speedster, and you see too when he gets hit, he has like white hair. He's kind of wrinkled up a little bit. So Purple Speedster has been at this for a long time. Yeah.
And then as all three of them are in the chronosphere, you do see basically the multiverse collapsing because whatever those Barrys are doing now, it's affecting the rest of the world. Yeah. And I think this was really cool. You got to see different iterations of the Flash.
I forgave the CGI for this moment for the most part.
Somewhat,
not completely, but somewhat. Yeah, somewhat.
But so you see, what's his name? Christopher Reeve's Batman. Yep. You see Adam West. You see, what's his name? Teddy Sears, who played like Jay Garrett.
Yeah, and you see like because in the old comics from like the 1920s, the Flash had like that weird helmet on. So you see like the old
all
like,
iterations
Silver Age or Golden Age comic characters.
Which is one that was really cool. It was Nick Cage as Superman.
Nick Cage Superman.
It's little known, but so it was I think. Was it Tim Burton? Tim Burton was supposed to direct a Superman movie starring Nick Cage. It's called Superman Lives. Yeah. And I think, not Tim Burton, but another director, Kevin Smith tells a story a lot. He tells, because he came, since he's a huge comic book fan, they had him come in to write on the script.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the guy who was supposed to direct, all he wanted to do was have Superman fight a giant spider. Okay, so you see him fighting the giant spider.
Nick Cage, Superman fights giant spider.
And it's interesting. So that guy who didn't get to direct Superman Lives ended up directing Wild Wild West. And so that's why they fought a giant spider in that one.
Got you. Okay.
It's crazy. Like, I saw it and I was like, I know too much.
He's like, I just want to fight a damn spider. Yeah. See, Nick Cage's Roman was really funny.
It was really funny. But it was like, you see that they all, in their worlds, they see they're all
rip. Like spheres.
Yeah, there's a rip in the sky showing you other worlds because of the fact that the actions of Prime Barry is affecting not just his multiverse, his world, but the multiverse.
Yeah.
And so he realizes what he has to do, and when the purple speedster realizes what he's going to do is go back and let his mom die.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't let that happen. Like, I'm so close to fixing this.
Which is so tragic because literally the purple speedster still just wants to fix everything.
Yeah.
For instance, I mean, like he's trying to save his world because that is his world, and that's the only way he can do it. But it's such a tragic thing.
Yeah, and so as he goes to kill Prime Barry, alternate Barry sacrifices himself, and since that is his younger self, they both die. And then so I think, there's something that it was interesting that when Prime Barry is trying to convince alternate Barry to stop, he quotes his mom.
Oh, yes.
And he goes, not every problem has a solution. We have to let go. And I think that's so, as alternate Barry's dying, he gives Prime Barry the little monkey.
Yes, stuffed monkey toy.
Stuffed monkey toy from the mom. Because it was something that triggered the argument earlier when they were fighting. And so after both the purple speedster and alternate Barry die, Prime Barry goes back to when he to undo his undo his quote unquote fix.
Yeah. So the fix when he put the tomato can into the cart, he goes back to that same time to then take the tomato
he
cart.
takes it out. But while he's there, he has a moment with his mom, and this is why I was saying this is why I love Ezra Miller as an actor.
Fair. Yeah.
Because of like that emotional beat. It was like because once again, as he's going through time, he's singing his mom for the first time in decades.
Yep. Yeah.
At this point, and it was just like so they have a very heartfelt moment where she's just like
that woman is a saint to have that interaction with a stranger.
Yeah.
For the record. For the record. Yeah.
But she said, she's basically saying it was like tell your mom you love her. She loves to hear that. They bring up the thing about I love you more, I love you first type of thing. And it was just a very very sweet moment between Barry Allen and his mom.
Yep. Yeah.
And then so he takes the tomato can out of the cart and he puts it back on the shelf. And then he looks at the camera briefly, and then you see him return to his time.
Yeah.
And if there's a beer bottle on the table from Iris, she was like, you were taking too long to come back.
Yeah, so I didn't know when you were gonna get back. So hey, yeah.
And she said, I'll see you in court.
Yes.
And so he runs to the court.
Because of course he's late.
Yeah, of course. And he makes a kind of a big entrance, and then they sit down, and you see he sits down behind his dad. His lawyer is presenting the evidence that Bruce had provided. But this time you see that the prosecutor, I guess, or no, the defense is probably his defense attorney.
It's the defense attorney, yeah.
His defense attorney says, it was like, you can clearly see in this new footage that we have.
Because now before it was like super staticky and you couldn't really see. So then Bruce Wayne Enterprises was able to like restore the footage and make it better. So then now
you see that, he was like, you can see from the footage now that it's been restored that my client was in the store, so he couldn't have killed his wife. And you see that Barry, when he had went back to put the can back after he took it out of his mom's cart, he moved that brand of tomato paste or whatever it was.
Yeah, crushed tomatoes.
Yeah, he moved it from where it was in like the middle of the shelf to the top of the shelf.
So you're saying he didn't learn his lesson? Is what you're saying. He learned nothing from this.
I thought it was like a minimal impact thing.
No, he literally learned nothing from this.
And so because of that, because his dad had to go from looking at
looking down
at the tomatoes, he has to look up. And so you see his face clearly in the surveillance. But his dad, his appeal works or whatever, and they leave the courthouse and Barry being super awkward.
Yeah,
it's just like I guess evidence is
evidence cooks the spaghetti, and you're like, all right.
He was like, did that sound cool? Super cool. Guy.
Super cool. Yeah, he was talking Iris. Super cool. Yeah.
So Iris tells him, you should ask me out on a date. He's awkwardly asked her to dinner. Yeah, and then he immediately gets a call from Bruce. And continue.
Yeah, so then he gets a call from Bruce, and Bruce says, "Hey, congratulations so much on what's going on right here." And then you keep going from there. And then, slight technical difficulties. But yeah, so he gets a call from Bruce. You see what's going on, which is good. And then Bruce Wayne's like, oh, don't worry, I'm coming right now. Because he's like, oh, I have so many things I need to tell you. So then Bruce Wayne comes up and gets out of the car. And instead of Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, who do we have?
George Clooney.
George Clooney. So he still messed everything up. The world's still going to get exploded. And yeah, and that is how the movie ends. And did you stay for the post-credit scene?
I looked it up because it seemed pointless.
Oh yeah, it was pretty pointless. And then so that's the end of the movie right there, with the post-credit scene being it's Ezra Miller as the Flash, obviously, it's Barry Allen. But yeah, so he's still the Flash in this post-credit scene, which is kind of hinting he might still be the Flash in James Gunn universe, I think.
See, I don't know, because I feel like they're wrapping stuff up.
Yeah, fair.
Type. But anyway.
But yeah, so it's Barry Allen with Arthur Curry, Aquaman, coming back from a bar. Arthur Curry's very drunk. Barry Allen can't get drunk because he's the Flash. It was pretty funny of like, good for Jason Momoa being totally fine. Obviously, it's on a set out in the streets of New York, but he just face down in a puddle. He's like, I'm home now. Don't worry about me. So it was a pretty funny post-credit scene. But that is the end of the movie, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. At the end, we always like to say, revisit our original review. Mike, give it a 3.5. How are you feeling about it?
3.5. Actually, 3.5.
Yeah, no, I still stick by my 3.5 as well. I don't think it was better than a 3.5. I don't think it was a 4, for instance, but still a really solid movie. I say, hey, still go check it out. And I'm very excited to see what James Gunn is going to do with the DC Universe. So, again, thank you so much for listening, everybody. We are the Two Meddling Kids. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us at Two Meddling Kids on Twitter and Instagram. Mike, how can they reach out to you?
At Days from Legendary on Instagram.
Beautiful. And if you'd like to reach out to me, I am at EdHunt77, or for my comic, it's at hunt.comics. And again, the first issue has been successfully funded on Kickstarter, so you will all be seeing a comic very soon. Until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Oh.